You gotta mute your phone. Mute your phone.
I don't know what's the language here is better, Yiddish or English? Right, English? We'll ask Rabbi Reuben, who was a Maggid Shir that my father liked to listen very much to his shir. He used to give the shir about Yemi, and we would listen to, he tried to make his status to come whenever possible, so we'd like to ask Rabbi Reuben to come and to say a few words.
I was hesitating, and I still am, whether to say in English or in Yiddish, maybe in Lashon HaKodesh. As you may assume, my first language is not English, it's actually Yiddish. But maybe in order to be Shaveh L'chol Nefesh, a language that everyone can relate to, I believe everyone understands English, I'll try to do my best. It's a great kavod and an honor for me to be mishtatev in such a chashuv event, to say a few words, lezichroi ulechvoidoi, from the unforgettable Rav Eliyahu, Olav Hasholem, Zichroi V'Levracha, which I would say I should consider myself as a Yidid would be inaccurate because Gadol B'Chachma V'Minyan. But after all, I had the Zechiyah, I had the great merit to be B'Yididus with Harav Agoyin, Achosim, Rav Eliyahu, which was a true example from a Hasidic Yid. And Amos, What is the purpose of doing a Yahrtzeit Suda, Yom HaZikaron? The family gathers to remember a person. Well, we all know who he was, at least family and close friends. What is the matter of making such a Suda? Could be the Pashtus. It says tonight there's a Yahrtzeit of the son of the Shloch Kodesh, Reb Sheftel. He wrote a sefer, Vavei Ha'amudim. So he says that a person should write down his entire yichus, and he should try to discuss it with his children, to Midin Kesidron. Why? Because we see in the Torah, we find a lot of psukim like Yaldu al Mishpechoisam Lebeis Avoisam. Yichus plays a role. It's a chashuv azach. A person should always remember his avos, avois, who they were. He should remember his forefathers, his ancestors, what they were all about, how they lived their lives. Mole with Torah, with Tzidkus, with Yiras Shamayim. And he should try to emulate their ways, their masim toivim. And we see that's the koich of yichus. A person should never forget his avar. They say a story. There was once a king. He had great success. He was matzliach. He had a great economy. His milchamos, he was matzliach. And once he had a ben zekunim, his only child. He told him, you know, my entire kid, the day will come, and I'll leave this world, and you'll be the Mamal Mokim, you'll have to replace me. Let me write down for you on a piece of paper 10 principles which I can say they made me to be who I am. I had success in my malucha because I tried to stick to that 10 principles. And that's what he did. He wrote down these principles, these hamhogos, these halachos va'alichos, and he told them, Umena lo tazira. Afterwards, a few months afterwards, he passed away, and the young Melech tried to stick to that tzavor which he heard from his father, and that's what he did. One day, he had a child, 5 years old. He was playing around by his father's table, and at the table he saw that the child saw a piece of paper. So why not go play around with it? He played around. The father didn't see him for a few minutes, and afterwards he saw his child coming back from the playroom, and he didn't believe his eyes. He saw that his child tore the entire paper into bits and pieces. And he started yelling at him, what did you do? You know, my entire malucha is relying on this. And the child innocently didn't know what he did wrong. And then the Melech was confused. What do I do now? He left the room. He came back after 5 minutes. And he saw the entire sheet, the piece of paper, was pasted and put back together the way it was before. So he asked his child, who did this? Are you a malach? You can't read letters, you can't read anything. I mean, how? So he said, my entire tata, why don't you understand? On the other side of the sheet, there was a picture of your father, my grandfather, the late Melech. Though I don't understand how to read letters, but I do understand how to put together a nice puzzle. I saw the picture. That's how I knew how to put together the piece of paper. What is the Nimshal? The Nimshal is HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us a Torah with Aseres HaDibros, and he told us, Va'atem tiyu li mamleches kehane b'goy kadosh. If you'll stick to those 10 commandments, I promise you good luck. I promise you, you'll have Olam Hazeh v'Olam Haba. But unfortunately, we have a lot of Goliaths. Jews were sent to exile once and twice. V'nismatu halavavos. The piece of paper was torn into bits and pieces. And we no longer know what the Torah wants from us. Mo Hashem Elokecha shoel me'imoch. We have only one Eitzah for that. That's the Eitzah of trying to picture, what would my father do? What would my grandfather do in such a case? That's halicha b'darkei avos. That's remembering our past. And that's the chashivos of gathering when we have the Yahrtzeit, the Yom HaZikaron, to remember how they lived their lives and try to imitate the way they lived it. But actually, we can say there is another time why we make such a Suda. We know b'noik sheba'olam, the Teva Dvarim, when someone passes away, la'aleinu, and everyone has a good word to say it, and everyone praises him. You remember that Yankel, he was such a good guy, and he davened and he learned. Although, when he was alive, anyone barely said a good word on him. No, that's a Teva. The person passes away, people like to praise him. But actually, is everything they say true? Lav dafka. That's hergish, that's feelings. When is the mivchan? When can someone see that the person that passed away was really an ehrliche guy, a chassidish yid? As time goes by, a year afterwards, it was a year later, and the hergeshim aren't so strong as they were during when he passed away. But yet, we see people still remembering, people are still talking about him. People are molei spilus of the way he learned, he davened. That's the symbol that he was a true ehrlich yid. And that's what David HaMelech said when he was mekoinen and Avner. Haloi seidu, kisar v'godol nofal hayoim b'Yisroel. Why did he say haloi seidu, on the future? I mean, the tragedy was in the present, there was a hoive. What he said is, I cry, I will say Shavachim, that's not a riot. Haloi seidu, you will see this in the future. You will get to know Kisar v'godol nofal hayoim. We will not forget Loi Nishkach. We won't forget the way he davened, the way he learned. And that's the simon, that's the raya that he was an ehrlich yid. Chaval al da'avden v'lo nishtakchen. When do we see that it's chaval al da'avden v'lo nishtakchen? When we tried the past year, we tried to find a replacement for such a tire chassidish yid, like Rebbe Leo. V'lo nishtakchen, we didn't find someone like him. We didn't find any person that had in himself so many milas, kishroinas, so many hasagas in Torah and in avodas Hashem. When we saw that the lo nishtakchen, then we got to realize that chaval al da'avden, the great loss. But that's our matara, not to cry on the past, what has happened, but just to try to make a better future, to try the halachta b'drachim as we see on Hashem and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The tzaddikim, the same way, we have to try to go in their ways. And be'emes, we see the Gemara says, B'shemes Reb Meir botlu moishle misholim. Reb Meir, the heilige Tanner Reb Meir, had a talent. When he lectured, he was able to give misholim, accurate parables, which people can relate to. So the kasha is, the heilige Tanner Reb Meir Balanes, that's the only shvach you found on him. B'shemes Reb Meir botlu moishle misholim. Who will be the one that will say nice misholim? That's all what he was. The answer is, I once heard the Shem Echad Ma'agdoilim, he said, there is a Metzius, a person comes in the Medrash with his child, and he says, Yankele, you want to see how a person has to daven? Try to observe that Reb Moshe, Reb Chaim, that person, the way he davens, I want you to daven. The way he's kavei itim l'toil, I want you to be kavei itim. The actual mehus of that person is a live mashal. He's a dugma chaya of the way how a person has to live. Mishemes Reb Meir, Botlu Moishle Mishalem. He was an actual mashal the gemus of the way how a person has to be. B'shemesra meir, we lost that. I think we can say, Am Yedideinu, Yedid Kol Beis Yisrael, Harav Hagoy Nachosiv, Rabbi Eliyahu, Zichroin Levracha. He didn't have to say droshes, he didn't have to do anything, but actually to see, to observe him the way I had this chus. Personally, I gave a shir, I still give Radomsky the Smedish on 43rd Street, and he participated that shir. I would say he wasn't only a participant, but he actually made the shir. When he wasn't present for any reason, it wasn't like Rabbi Eliyahu didn't arrive today, he was missing. It was like a different shir. The clarity he had in all Sugyas Hashas, his brightness, his brilliance, not only in Torah but also Yediyas B'Mila D'Alma, which was really mind-boggling, and which he tried to utilize the max into Torah. He knew, as people know, he knew Chachmas Refuah, he had a big knowledge of Chachmas Refuah and Cheshvan, and so on. And everything he tried to link to the Torah. As we know, the Torah is Mekoir Kol HaChachmas. And he was a dogma for all this, and that's what we try. When we make a Yom HaZikaron, we try to remember what he was, what he stood for, and that's what we try to do. The Halachta B'dracha, to follow. We should try to Ilach Be'ikvay Yahrtzeit, to follow the footsteps, and to go on that same path which he paved for us. I'll conclude my words by saying, Chafei Nissen was the Yahrtzeit of the Heilige de Rechaim, the Tzanzerah. A person once came to the Tzanzerah, they asked him, Rabbi, when does Chinuch start? I have children, when does Chinuch start? So the Tzanzerah said, by the Bar Mitzvah. So he goes, Rabbi, by the Bar Mitzvah? And when my son is 10, 11, 12, he could just do whatever he wants. There's no chinuch. So the Rebbe goes, you didn't understand my words. From your bar mitzvah, the chinuch of your children started by your bar mitzvah. Because hakol moedim v'hakol yoidim, the best method in chinuch is not about giving drushes for your children, but being a live example for your children. As they say, Yahrtzeit, there was a father, he told his child, you know, next week you're becoming bar mitzvah. After the bar mitzvah, no more schmoozing by davening. You know, davening you have to stand still. Comes that Shabbos, he saw his father schmoozing, covering the nose. So he says, Tati, when are you becoming bar mitzvah? We know a person has to be a dogma, and then v'tzetzoenu. First, yes, but the Dibar Tovam, remember, first you should learn yourself Torah, and then Vishinamtam Levanecha. We see the children, grandchildren, Bishpocha Shalema, which is Mamash Anachas to see. There's no Chiddush. The Gemara says, Shuta di Yenuka da Avua de Imei. You can see in the language of a child what he sees, what he observes in his home, the way his parents go about Yiddishkeit. And that's what we're here today, to try to keep up, to continue this holy legacy, this Moirosha Kedosha, which he was manchel to his children and his grandchildren. We see from Tzadikim, you should tell for the Kehanim, they should always remember that they are B'nei Aharon, who their ancestor Aaron HaKohen was. And we see in the Parsha Savia Himechaleles, when a Bas Yisrael does what she's not supposed to do, she causes embarrassment for her parents. Midatoiva Meruba, when a person, Beral Mezaka Abba, we know from the Zohar HaKodesh, when children go the right way, they daven, they learn, it's a gewaltige Nachas Ruach Bashamayim Imal for the Neshama of the parents, of the father or the mother or whoever was megadol them. And that's a gewaltige zechus for descendants when they do mitzvahs, when they're mekayah mitzvahs Hashem. Not only it's a toiva for them, but a toiva on the neshama for the father When the father is alive and he asks something from his children, who would listen to him? Obviously the father asks, I'll do it. But even after when he's bevoyel HaKodesh, he's bevoyel Haba, ba'alma dikshoit, it should be the nishma koiloi, and then it would say so then he won't be considered to be like a mess. But say so when he left this world, he never became a mess. He wasn't a mess, and he's still in the begin of tzaddikim kruim chayim, because he has children that continue this way, this shalsheles. HaKadosh Baruch Hu shall help Yahrtzeit, the mishpacha, all Yedidim, should be able to make an achas ruach. An achas ruach for the neshama doesn't mean yichudim, the vekus. It can mean every nisoyan a person has. There's this gabrus on the nisoyan, and it says it's leilu nishmas. And he remembers what this person was, and he tries to go in his way. That's a gewaldige ilu in neshama. Hashem shall help, b'nisan egalu, b'nisan asidim egoil. With the Geula will be Zoichet at Chiyas HaMeisim, will be able to reunite with our Yedid, our father, our friend, our neighbor, and we should be Zoichet. If we want to be Zoichet le Geula, V'areinu b'vinyanoi, then there's a Tanai, V'samcheinu b'sikunoi, we have to be Mesaken, or we still have to fix, and the Baruch Hu should help, that we should be able to go in his ways. And b'schus our hishtadlus al kolponim will try to have the image of this unforgettable person in front of our eyes. To meet him, Kisidam, will be zoichet to cause an achas ruach for the neshama. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu should help b'nisan egalu, b'nisan asidim legoel, b'mheira omei.
Grüß dich, Rabbi Lieben, und gewaltige Werte,
Two lines.
Just going to ask Rabbi Citron, he has to give a shear right now, and he doesn't have much time, but we just asked him to say a one-line epis.
My father left the middle of our scooters to go to Yeshua. So we understand. Say one word.
Weet je, entschuldigung, van de oilen. Also, I have to excuse myself for the Kusha Almune, Emerson, Kedai. A few minutes is not enough to express and to remember and to go over all the time that we spent together with the Kusha Benefte. Aber so wie man schon gehört, von der Kusha Beredne, im selben Sort Gedank, mir beigefallen, steigt hier Dativ, das Baruch gesagt, hier Dativ, Cholib, Avrum Avini, Leman, Asher Yitzave, Es Bunov, Es Beis Reachro, V'Shomei Derech Hashem. And we also find in the Torah 7 words was Avrum Avini had gerät mit Yitzchak. Hineni Beni, Emekim, Yireloi, Haseh, Lo'ilu Beni. We don't find more than those 7 words was Avrum Avini had gerät mit Yitzchak Avini. And the Torah wants to tell us, Ki Yadativ, as du Achiba Yesayra zwischen der Beinische Leulem mit Avrum Avini, wegen dem Chinuch that he gave over to his children. The Torah should have told us the way that he was mechanech his children. So the selber sot gedank mit der Mann in der Surim HaKadoshim, as a Mensch tit mit sich vorstellen, a Weg, wie so lebt, Ki Yadativ, der Beinische Leulem sucht nach dem Lieb, Avrum Avini, Verwurf the man ashir Yitzhave is Bunov. Yitzhave doesn't mean preaching. Yitzhave means to live a life. To live a life of a derhoibene Leben. Mit a gewaltige Ahavas Teure. A gewaltige Leben which people could look up to. And people by the Shir constantly remember him and refer back to him. And he was one of the few people that participated with the Rankes of the Shir, und sie gegeben zum Shir. So, ich wünsche ihm zu helfen, ja, ich sicher Burig. Und als du Tag ist an meine Zjöische, von der Kusche bei Almune, von der Kusche bei Kinder, und sie führen sich weiter auf seinem Weg, Janke Bavini, lo Meis, weil uns war mal Ibechaim, das heißt, dass uns war Abunov, durch dem es mir halt Ibe, Chazal zungen, wir steigen ihm nach, Bechib Huchei, lo heulich Beleubunen, aber am Lot über die Kinder, wo sie gehen in einer herrliche, aufgetretene Weg, so dass weggestellt mit einer starke Jesuides, sind wir uns sicher, als hat eine gewaltige Nachasriach im Himmel, jeder Maße Teufel, wo sie steigt, wenn der Mann ist früher beim Deutschen, aber viel hat Twilasmitze, kann man dienen für ein Kind. Der Poskim und Maschale, sie ein fremder Mensch.
What happened that I didn't record?
Your brother? Who's that?
Yeah, he's in Australia.
He sees you guys?
Yeah. But I don't know, but this is recording. I don't know why it stopped recording. Whatever.
Everybody else is here? Yeah.
How did this happen? I don't know.
One thing that I knew from my father was that he had a tnur of the Chatchila Ariba. He didn't necessarily go through the channels in the normal way necessarily, but if he had to sometimes jump over the fence, he wasn't scared, and he bit the bullet, so to speak, and he did what he had to do, and made the changes regardless of without looking at the issues that are in between. He had his eyes was fixed on the goal, on what the Matarah was, and he acted like that. So I'd like to sing, if somebody can start off the Lachatchila Ribbon. Ay, ay, la, 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 of Spanish Shul, and who had a shear from 7:30 to 8:30 to 9:30, and he agreed to stop a little bit earlier, covered our father. So I'd like to call upon Rabbi Kaufman, who my father was very much endeared to him, and loved hearing his shiurim, and has come on a regular basis to hear, to give us a few lines about it.
Chaim.
Chesed Yugon Aleinu V'Kol Yisrael. Yahrtzeit, Choyim Levucha. I think we can really give him the title of Zecher Tzaddik, the Kudish Levucha. He lived his life, Kedush and Tiyu, and he passed away also as a Kudish with tremendous Mesiras Nefesh. Yahrtzeit was in the Svardish Shul for many, many, many years. I can't remember. Amen? I can't remember a day.
It has to be around almost 50 years.
50 years. I don't remember that long ago because I'm not as old as my white beard would lead you on to, but I do remember for 25, 30 years for sure, there wasn't a day that he wasn't in the Smedish, and there wasn't a day that he participated in the Shia. Now, the Yahrtzeit's participation in the Shia was not opening the Gemara and sleeping on the Gemara, or looking at the Rebbe, or shaking sometimes at the Maggid Shia, or cracking a smile that he understands what's going on. He was an active participant. In fact, sometimes he was a threat to some Maggid Shia, because he would intercede, and he would say his opinion, and it was his opinion that really counted, and most of the time his opinion was the right opinion. He was a very involved person, very caring and endearing person. He was a very majestic person. He was a noble, regal type of a human being, besides the Mesiras Nefesh that he had, especially throughout his sickness. Unfortunately, his family rallied around him, and his wife, Zuzan Gezintin, started putting so much koiches and love and understanding and efforts in trying to get him to feel a little better. What us in the Svardish Shul, we also rallied around him, trying to help whatever we can. And Baruch Hashem, he was able to extend his life with some longevity somewhat than what the prognosis was, with the love and care that he got from his family and all the people who cared about him with the Svardish Shul, being in the Svardish Shul. And he really meant a lot to us, because he was a part and parcel of our shul. He was a pride of our shul. We wanted to say, a Svardish Shul member, you took a look at him and you saw what it was to be not a Svardish Shul member, to be a member of Klal Yisrael, you saw Shebechosmar. And I thought to myself, it's interesting that his Yahrtzeit comes out on the Svira. You know what the Svira was today? Not tonight, we'll say it, because what they should say in Bracha, but the day that passed, Sunday. What was the Svira? What was it? What was the Svira? In the Svira, what were the Sviras? Hoyt Shebegvur. You know what Hoyt Shebegvur means? Hoyt means beauty. Hoyt means malchus. Vur means strength. This was a person who embodied both malchus and strength in him. And Mol Kahane b'nei Aaron, tell them, Aaron, tell the Kahanim, the children of Aaron, and tell them, don't be metama to a nefesh. And the Rashi asks right away, before she asks, what is the em of Amarta twice em? Tell the Kahanim and tell them. Of course, tell the Kahanim is enough. So I says, as Gedoyel Maktanim, this tells us the idea of chinuch, that it's not only enough to know, but you have to tell it to others also, future generation in that area. He was great in being mechanech his children. I know his children asked him for advice. I know he was very free in giving advice, whether it was for simchas or for other occasions. He was always there for everybody. Not only his children, everybody else, but his children meant a lot to him. When his son, the Chazan from Australia, came, he took the whole family, and everybody came. Not only the family, the whole neighborhood came. Everybody came just to listen to, to the Chazan. It was a pleasure, and every word that came out of him. And when he wanted an aliyah, he came upstairs and he demanded it, I wanted, he was so friendly, he was so part of the system that it wasn't a demand, it was just, part of the group, and that we, of course, we adhere to whatever he wanted to. But what is the em of Amarta? The Be'elison, em of Amarta means the following. You go and demand from the Kohen so many things. Don't be metama, don't defile yourself. Don't marry a grusha. Don't do this, don't do this. Shani Kahanim, the Gemara says Kahanim are different than Klal Yisrael, other members. The riba bahem mitzvahs, chas mitzvahs yisayla, because it really gives them so many other mitzvahs, extra mitzvahs. Now, could you imagine? We're going to tell the Khan, listen, not only are you mechiv in the mitzvahs that every Jew is mechiv in, we're going to add mitzvahs that only Kahanim can do also. You're putting in another burden, another onus on them. How do you approach them? And how do they accept this? Why should we carry the load of Klal Yisrael more than anybody else? Says the Rebbeinu Shalom to Moshe, Emor el Kahanim. Tell the Kahanim, you know who you are? B'nei Aaron. You're Aaron's children. You know what Aaron was? Aaron was the greatest of Kol Yisrael. Oyev Shalom v'Oyev Shalom. Is there anything too small for you to do if you're Aaron's child? A person has to know his roots. A person has to be planted and grounded and embedded in something to grow. A person has to be proud of his past. A person has to be proud of who he came from and who he knows who he comes from. He aspires to be like that. You know your father, you know your Zayda, you know who the elder Zayda is, then of course your bar of accomplishments has just risen so high. And all of a sudden, it's so easy to do whatever you have to do because you know you have it in you. You know you could do it. It's in your DNA, it's in your blood, it's in your genes. And therefore the Torah tells Moshe, you're going to tell Aaron to tell his children that they are going to be mechuyev in mitzvahs like Tumah, Shikol Yayin, Nes, all the rest of the Zachen Grusha. And Moira Kahanim first give them the idea, tell them, remind them, B'nei Aaron, your Aaron's children. If you know who you are, you know who your Zaydas and Babas are, you know the Mesiras Nefesh and the accomplishments that they did, then it becomes easier for you to become like them and to accept more chayisen than a normal person would accept. And therefore, Moira Kahanim B'nei Aaron, first tell them who they are, empower them, give them the strength, give them the koyach by knowing who they are. Then tell them anything you want, they'll accomplish, they'll do it, because they know that it was done before in the history of their family, in their lineage, in the progenitors did it. You could do it too, and you can accomplish. And Yahrtzeit was that kind of a person. He was hoid, he was majesty, he was a balbatisha person, he was a person people look up to, yet he had a certain gvura, a strength, not only a stubbornness, that when he wanted something done, it was done. Not only that, it was a gvura d'araisa, it was a gvura d'kedusha. He knew where he came from. He knew who his rabbeim were, he knew who his parents were, and he knew what was expected of him. He had a gvura, a hoit shel gvura, and therefore he was able to accomplish what he did. He accomplished not only for himself, but for others. He was a role model for other people. When he walked in with his bottle of whatever he had here, green, red, sometimes different colored, whatever it was, believing it wasn't a milkshake and it wasn't a soda either, it was some vitamin drink or whatever it was, and people saw how he mitzvah, coming to a shir, sitting, participating, being an active participant, that gave them something. They took home something from the shir. Besides the learning the Gemara, they took home a strength, a majesty that they also tried to emulate. Isn't that? So the Boy Shalom helfen. Hazan Schis, Zozana Melitz Toiv, Koyden for the Vabzana, that was there all the time for him, and everybody knows that. For the children that cared so dearly about him, that he cared so dearly about them, the grandchildren, and they've been great-grandchildren also basically, but grandchildren for sure, who he cared so much. For the ganz Klal Yisrael, everybody in this Friday shul and ganz Klal Yisrael, Yeh Zichar Buch.
Amen.
Grace and Shekhet from Cotton. And they said before the Dvarim Yitzvah Alev, Prayer Blossom, Grace and Shekhet from the Dvarim Alev.
Oh, yes, it's coming. Say something. Say
Something that comes to mind, we're just waiting for a couple of minutes. I just heard that Rabbi Yossi Jacobson is on his way. He'll be here in a couple of minutes. And he's somebody, I'll give the introduction with him not being here. He was a person that actually came to visit my father in hospital 3 times, I believe. And one of the times I happened to witness, it was Erev Pesach. He came Erev Pesach, and I was there when he came to visit my father. And I have to tell you that the way my father's face lit up and every word that he said, and he spoke for about an hour, and he was like swallowing, and he had such a geschmack, such a chen on his face, hearing every word. From Yossi's side, from Rabbi Jacobson's side, also a very big yashakech to him. I mean, he's not here right now, but he'll be here in a minute. He came at the very last time I heard he was there, the last Erev Shabbos. My father was nifter on Sunday morning, and Erev Shabbos, mamish a half an hour before Shabbos, he came to the hospital. He told Yigal that he wants to go to the hospital right now. And although Yigal looked at the clock and he said, "This is so close to Shabbos," he says, "No, I want to go right now." And he made Yigal pick him up, and he brought him to my father, and he spent with him about 25 minutes. And he turns to my father and he says to him, "Give a look. The sun is going down already. Give a look from your window. The sun is going down. I have to rush back to Shabbos in Crown Heights." And that's and so he did. So there was a very big Liebschaft which my father had towards Rabbi Jacobson, and he used to give a shiurim in the summertime in the country, where my father used to love listening to his shiurim. So hopefully we'll hear from him in just a couple of minutes. I'm just going to say for all the children and grandchildren that my father did, and one of the last times when he was in hospital, and I sort of gave everybody a recording, but I have an opportunity to say this now in front of everybody, that he asked that there's something that in Krishna that we should have in mind, and he explained it in great detail, what it means, and he said that this is a message. He spoke for about an hour in Arumgeret, different in Yonim of Amunah, and how simple it is to have Amunah in the Eibishter, and how the Hepech of Amunah is something which is not even a logical conclusion to come to. Even the Seichel and Nusha, even in a logical way, it makes 100% sense. And he gave a message, and he said that he would love all his children and his grandchildren to hear it. So I'm just making our cold cater here for those children and grandchildren that haven't heard that hour-long tape, to make sure to listen. I'm sorry that I don't have it right here, and I have a be'erich, but I don't have it clear enough to express it. Shmuel, you want to say something? Huh? No, all right. So Devaila will maybe sing a niggin, and then within a minute, he's here. You're on a niggin? No? Da la la da 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 ma da 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 ba 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 da 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 ba 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 ma da 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 ya ba 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 ma di di ma 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 di da la da di la la di di ma ah da la 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 di di ma da di da di la la di di ma. I As I just mentioned, Rabbi Jacobson and Shakir for coming, and I gave a little of a long akdama while we were waiting for you to come. But I'm just going to say that my father really enjoyed your company, and he, when he was in the country with you, he didn't want to miss a minute. And as I said, that I remember one of the 3 times that you came to visit my father when he was in hospital, which was Erev Pesach. I was there with you and with him, and I saw his face light up. Every vertel, every varteda that you mentioned, it was machayim, and you could see his face with all the tubes and this and that he had, and from every side of his body, he was able to smile and to hear and to take in your words. And I believe that even the last time he actually wanted you to come, he actually asked Yigal to ask you to come, and you came. As I said earlier, while you weren't here, you came, was pretty close to Shabbos, but you told Yigal that was the last Friday, and you mentioned that you wanted to come right then and there. I'm just going to say that I just made a siyum on Maseches Sukkah, and when I think of you and Maseches Sukkah, I think it was this year that you just gave. I remember you shouting out there on the video that we were watching. What was it? You Lucas. Laikus, at Matzai at Mechalem Mensch Yisrael, v'ei atoim and aleim l'shas hatchak. So this is you're somebody that's very, very familiar to us, and we all love you and we cherish you. We want to hear your warm words.
Thank you so much, Chaim. Thank you so much for your words. Chaim to one and all. Chaim. I remember vividly 1 year ago when one of the beloved children, Rabbi Yigal, phoned me Friday late afternoon, and he said it's probably too late to go, so we'll go next week. Shabbos was coming in, it was Pesach time, so Shabbos was coming in approximately this time, late. This was already, it was close to, it was close to 7. So he said, we'll do it next week. Now, I didn't know that the situation was so bleak, but my kishkes told me to tell him, don't, we'll go today. I thought the worst comes to worst, we'll walk from Borough Park to Crown Heights. It's not the end of the world, it's been done before, many times. We'll go, we'll have to walk back, I'll walk back. And it was really the right thing to do because, as you know, this was his last Shabbos, and Sunday early morning he returned his neshama to its maker 1 year ago. And when I walked into the room, I saw that it didn't look very well, very good. And as you just mentioned, there were a lot of tubes. So I went over to the Yahrtzeit and I told him it was Parshas Shmini. It was Erev Shabbos Parshas Shmini. So I told him that it says in this week's Parsha that Nadav and Avihu, they went and they offered Ketores and they passed away in the fire. And the Ohr HaChaim HaKadosh writes in Parshas Acharei Mos that the reason it doesn't say clear why they passed away. So the Ohr HaChaim says because they wanted to kiss Hashem and the body couldn't contain it, so they died of misas neshikin, barevus, yididus, nesikus, neshikus, a lot of terms of the Ohr HaChaim. In Chassidish Svarim it says that Nadav and Avihu had rotzui without shoiv. They wanted to go back to the source, and they didn't realize that a person has to remain in this world as long as he or she can to fulfill Hashem's rotzin in this world with all its limitations. In Hasidic terminology, it's called they had oiris without kelim. They had a lot of energy, but they didn't want to deal with the containers because containers are limiting. So I said to Yahrtzeit, ich sehe auf euch zu viel oiris und nicht genug kelim. I see on you too many oiris and not enough kelim. Remember, Parsha Shmini, Nadav and Avihu, it's called a chet. It's not a gewaldige sin that they wanted to go back. But it's still, you need more kelim. And with his last koiches, he smiled, and his well-known smile to many of you. and nodded his head. He nodded his head, and we spoke actually for quite a while, relatively speaking, and returned home a few seconds before Shkia Sachama, certainly before the second Shkia. And of course, it was his last day, his last Shabbos on this world, after which he returned his soul to its maker. I want to emphasize tonight, 1 year later, two qualities about the Baal Yahrtzeit that we can all learn from. One articulated heavily in Parshas Emor, and one articulated in yesterday's Parsha, Erev the Yahrtzeit. Both seem opposite, and yet in his life, I think they were integrated or synthesized, at least to a large degree. The first thing is, there's a very interesting mitzvah in Parshas Emor that somehow many people fail to appreciate. And the mitzvah is, you're not allowed to bring a blemished carbon to Hashem. A carbon that has a broken limb, that has blind. What's the problem? You can't bring it as a carbon to Hashem. And then the Torah adds, U'mo'uch, v'charuz, v'nosuk, also is not a carbon. Meaning, any animal that its full creative power is crushed, also can bring a carbon. But then the Torah adds, U'ba'artzachem loisas. Says Rashi, and it's halach in Shulchan Aruch, that from here you learn the isur of sirus on any animal, behema, chaya, oif, person, in Eretz Yisrael, in Chutz La'aretz, anywhere, even a dog, to destroy its creative power, its procreative power to be able to create a new generation, is an isur min HaTorah. A kosher animal, a non-kosher animal, a tahir animal, a tamei animal, in the Holy Land, not in the Holy Land, bisman abayis, bisman hazeh. To destroy the creative power of an animal, which is called sirus, castration in English, is an isur min HaTorah. There's even a shitta of Tanoim that Gentiles are not allowed to do it. There's a machlokes of Tanoim, and one shitta is even, it's a itzivu even on Goyim, even though that's not the halacha according to most poskim. Now let's think about this. We all know, I don't have to elaborate, the Nifter would be able to elaborate on these things because he was very curious and he knew a lot about these things that not so many people in Borough Park know about. But everybody knows, if you have a farm, I know there's not too many farms on 14th Avenue, but if you have a farm, you know that some animals, they get out of control, right? They say there was once a big tzaddik in Poland, and he went on a train. On the train, he meets a Yid. He says, Shalom Aleichem, Aleichem Shalom. He asks the Yid, "Was tut ihr?" So the Jew says, "Ich handel mit Pferd. I deal with horses." So the Rebbe says, "Punkt wie ich," just like me. Sometimes you have a farm, and you have a lot of animals, and some of them are out of control. Sometimes you have a bull, a gore, it's goring, it's oxing, it's asher shenogach, it's arbul ovis nezikin, asher v'aber v'amave. What do you do? What do you do? So every good farmer will tell you. Huh? Yeah, you misalis it. You're machlish what's called the koyach gavra. You destroy its creative power, and it calms down. That's the fact. It calms down, it becomes suddenly alemelech. Literally, it becomes a sheep, it becomes docile, it becomes submissive. Dogs, some dogs are out of control, and it has a lot to do with their creative power. Then Mishugal Oisei Davar, Kelev, it says in Kabbalah, is Kuloi Leiv, it's all heart, and then the heart is too big, the impulses are too big. Here again, what you do is you calm it down, you destroy its creative power. Comes the Torah and says it's an Isur min HaTorah ba'artzachem lo yisasu. What does this mean in our lives? For some people, the meaning of religion, I don't know how to say this nicely, but the meaning of Avodas Hashem of religion is that they feel that they have to
give up
not give up. That they have to cut down their creative powers. It seems very logical. You cut down the creative powers and suddenly you become a lemela. You don't have a big Yetzirah. You don't have any big cravings. You don't have any big instincts. You'll be an Oived Hashem Bazel Baba. But that's not what Hashem wants. Because when you cut out the Yetzer, it's also from the word Yotzer. Yetzer is also from the word Yotzer, creator. Hashem wanted powerful people, creative people, people that express themselves, people that have big hearts, big emotions, big minds, and people who are driven, and people who are ambitious, and people who want to actualize themselves to the fullest. That's not only what he wants in the Beis Hamikdash, that's the symbol. We sometimes see children, they're very wild. I was once dealing with a teacher in a particular yeshiva. I had a son in his class, and my son used to be a very feisty, lebedik kid. It was a machayim. It was terror, but it was a machayim. And they said these gewaldige things about this teacher. Here you have a teacher 40 years in Rabbeinu Chaim Berlin. So I speak to the teacher one day, and he tells me in full innocence, and he meant it, never, he meant it. He says, you know, in the beginning of the year, your son came in, he was speaking a lot, he had a lot to say, but Baruch Hashem, after 6 months, he doesn't say a word. Baruch Hashem, now he's quiet, he sits and listens a whole day. And a chukafem, and what he's calling Baruch Hashem a blessing, I thought was a disaster. And I'm still trying to deal with it. A few years later, there's an expression in Svarim, Im lo yoyil lo yazik, right? If it won't help, it won't do damage. In Chinuch, I would say, Im lo yazik lo yoyil. If it's not a kid who's a mazik, nothing is going to come out of it. If he's a mazik, if there's creative power, if there's something there, if there's a bren, now you have to harness the passion. But if there's no bren, what are you going to do with it? Some people make the mistake. They think, what's the definition of avodas Hashem? Crushed personalities, crushed hearts. Everybody should be hunchback and lame, psychologically, emotionally. There's no creativity. There's no individuality. Nobody has emotions. Nobody has a mind. And then it's good. Then we're all obedient. We're all soldiers. We all follow the same program. And we'll all sit in the same Gan Eden and eat the same sushi in Elam Haba. Comes the Rebbeinu Shalom and says, this has nothing to do with me. This has to do with religion, not with God. This has to do with institutionalized orthodoxy. It doesn't have to do with Avodas Hashem. Avodas Hashem means Hashem wants real, powerful people. And in your full power and your full creativity, discover your relationship with the Ein Sof Baruch Hu. One of the great qualities of the Nifter was he believed that a person ought to maximize potentials. And he lived that way. He was inquisitive. He was curious. I probably mentioned this in the Shnoshim. It wasn't easy having him at a shir. Everybody else at a shir, yeah. Rabbi Jacobson said, Mustama, he knows what he's talking about, right? You trust him. Tosfos says, yeah. Chumash says, sure. It's a pasuk, sure, why not? Everyone sits, they say there was once a rabbi. After 6 months in his shul, he resigned. So they come to him and they say, Rebbe, why did you resign? Was the salary not good? He says the salary was good. Were we not listening by the speeches? You were listening by the speeches. Did the board not respect you, Karagel? No, they respected me. So Rabbi, why did you resign? He says, because the first question someone is asking me in 6 months. First question. With the Baal Yahrtzeit, we didn't have to worry about this. Sometimes to the dismay of his children. He didn't stop asking. He had to know everything. And then the Shia finished and he was still asking. Hours later, days later, but you said this, you said that, you said that. Whenever he went to visit, he had to understand everything. He wanted to master everything. He was given a certain sentence by his physicians many, many years ago. He decided he's not going to leave one page unturned. He's not going to leave one opportunity unturned. He's going to seek out in adventurous ways, in Germany or any other place in the world, a way to be able to prolong his life. Until his last moment, he was curious. I want to know how many people, 24 hours before they pass away, all they're asking here is, Zog Nachad V'Torah. He couldn't speak anymore. I wanted to leave, it was almost Shabbos. No, he wants to hear more. Yigal says, you want water there? You want to, no, Torah, yeah. There's people that have 40 years to live, they don't want to hear about Torah. 40 years, you tell them about Torah, they say, kill me first. They say, somebody once told me, they said like this, a joke you could repeat once in 2 years, because people remember jokes. A story you could repeat once a year. A Dvar Torah you could repeat twice in the same speech. That's how it is with many people. And here was a Jew that literally, till his last breath, his ishtoikakus for Torah, his yearning for more shleimus, for more Torah, for more avodah, for more wisdom, for more knowledge, for more dveikus, was very, very impressive. Despite the fact that on a physical level, so much of his body has already shut down. But you saw the power of the human spirit to want to be successful, to want to maximize, to realize that every moment is a gift, and every koyach is a gift, and it ought to be utilized till its fullest. There's a part from the Chafetz Chaim. He passed away on Sunday, on Yom Rishon, and today is the Yom Rishon. The Shir Shal Yom of Sunday, we say a pasuk in Tehillim, Miyala Bahar Hashem, Umiyakum B'mkoim Kachay. Who will climb the mountain of Hashem? Who will remain there? Neki Chafayim, clean hands. Bar Leivav, a pure heart. Ashalei Nosel Lashav, Nafshi. Or Nafshi, Kriyek Siv. Now you sound like your father. That's good, that's good. Ziegel just nods. Ashalei Nosel Lashav, so there's a Kriya Neksiv, very good. Nafshi, Nafshi. So everybody knows the word is Miyala Ba'ar Hashem, Miyokum B'mkam Kotri. Everyone climbs mountains, but not too many people remain on the mountain, right? Everybody goes on a diet, but not too many people maintain the diet. Everybody goes to a shir, but not too many people maintain the shir. You turn on and you turn off. Miyala Ba'ar Hashem or Miyokum. The Baal Yahrtzeit didn't only know how to climb, he knew how to stay. Miyokum, perseverance. Stick it through. But then the pasuk says, "Shloi noso lashav nafshi or nafsha." Says the Chafetz Chaim, what does this mean? Ashloi noso lashav nafshay. He did not carry his soul in vain. He teaches a beautiful word that if a person doesn't utilize one of the koiches that the Rebbeinu Shalom gave him, so Hashem says, "You're carrying my neshama in vain." There's an unbelievable medrash in Yalkut Shemaini. The medrash says, it says in Melachim, that there was a vineyard. A lot of the family of Baruch Hashem, great Balim and Naginim and Chazonim, as you know, the Niyazovs, Rebbe Yotzian and Solange Yad and his Rebbets and Sophia produced a whole army of Yud Aleph Keichav. We just sang about the Niyazovs in Echad Miyodeya. Who knows one? I know one. Remember that song? When you were exhausted. So we came to number 11. We have your children, right? Kenai and Hara. And the 11 stars, yeah. So each one is a star in their own right. Each one is a star in their own right. I once, because I speak from time to time, so I went for voice lessons. So there's a Yid Einhorn here, Chazan Einhorn. He gives voice lessons. So he's an interesting character, like most Chazanim. And I went for voice lessons, so he gave me homework. Of course, I didn't do the homework. I came back next week, you did the homework? I said, no. He started to scream at me. The chutzpah you have, you come to me, I give you homework, you come back without the homework. Who do you think you are? Who do you think you are? The biggest singers come here, and everybody like the Tatla does homework. Everybody, the Gresta, the Shensta. You don't? Who do you think you are? And he started to give me a mouthful of mussar. He said, I'll tell you what your problem is. Your problem is you think you're a star. So let me tell you the ground rules in this office. In this office, the sun shines. And when the sun shines, you don't see any stars. There's no stars. And when the sun shines, there's no stars. So there's 11 stars. Kanai had 11 children. And yet everybody had a special derech eretz and a bittul, a kibbud av, to their father. In the best version of Uzbekistan Jews. American Jews don't know what kibbud av aim is, right? I'll tell you something that my father's a Zechron Levracha. Remember my father? My father heard from the Rebbe, from the Lubavitcher Rebbe. My father told this to me. The Rebbe told him, Sagid Vort. He said, I heard from my father-in-law that in America, they don't have 4 months. 4 months I'm missing in America. Which months I'm missing? He said the first month is missing is Cheshvan. Nobody makes a Cheshvan on Nefesh in America. They're stuck in Cheshvan. The next month that's missing is Tevis. Nobody does a Teva to anybody. You always want, what's in it for me? What's in it for me? Nobody does a Teva. The next thing he said in America, ear. There's no ear in English, it's do. In Yiddish is the do and ear. In English there's no ear. Everyone is you. There's no. And the next month he said is missing. He said they're stuck in of. They're stuck in tata. He said in America, so he said in America, Rufman tata pa. So he said in Yiddish, pa head, pa hin. Pop go here, pop go there. They're stuck in of, they're stuck in tata. But in Samarkand, in Uzbekistan, they still know what a father is. Kibbutz. And even though he transplanted his family to the United States of America, you see the tremendous kibbutz av, the aim of all the niyaz of children and their in-laws, even though many of them are American, to the extent that it's very awe-inspiring. So when you have this type of quality, people sometimes carry their souls in vain. By Rebbe Yahrtzeit and Rebbe Chananya Zechrona Levracha, this was unacceptable. You have a day, you have a soul, how can you carry it in vain? Hashem gave you what He gave you, drive with it, take the ball and run with it to the maximum of your abilities. And if you make mistakes, you'll make mistakes. You'll sometimes get on people's nerves, you'll get on people's nerves. They say soldiers die standing. And I was once in the Tzemach Tzedek Shul in Yerushalayim. So somebody there wished happy birthday to Rabbi Adin Even Yisrael, Rabbi Adin Steinzos. So he says, tell me the biggest mistake you made in your life. This kid asks him, his 70th birthday I think it was. Rabbi Adin says, I made a lot of mistakes in my life. But the greatest things I regret are the things I didn't even try because I was scared to make mistakes. That's what I regret. Try and make mistakes. What we regret most is that which we were afraid of trying because we were afraid of making mistakes. So Rebbe Yahrtzeit personified the Ba'artzechem Loisasu, a full koyach hayitzira. But there was one more quality about him I think is worthy emphasizing tonight. Everybody knows the Gemara in Masechta Shabbos, Daf Lamed Aleph, Amud Aleph, and that is a gewaldige Gemara about a story of a non-Jew who came to Shammai and said, teach me the whole Torah on one leg. Teach me the whole Torah on one leg. Basically 30 seconds. So the Gemara says, Dochafoy ba'amas habinyan. Shammai was a builder. And he had a construction stick. So he took the construction stick and he went like this. Arois! Arois! He didn't say shagins, but he said Arois. So the man came to Hillel, and Hillel said, what you dislike to be done to you, don't do to anybody else. That's the whole Torah. Everything else is commentary. Go study the commentary. The gewaldige shaila is, how do you behave this way like Shammai? You throw somebody out with a stick. You don't want to convert him? Don't convert him. You could say nicely. A Yid comes to a Gadol Ador and says, teach me the whole Torah on one leg. I want to convert to Judaism. You don't feel he's worthy? Tell him. You're not qualified. You got to go to yeshiva. It's not on one leg. I really can't do it. I'm sorry. This is not a factory. It's not a reconstructionist Gators factory. Fine. And who, Shammai? The one who said yesterday in Pirkei Avos Perek Aleph, what did Shammai say? Vehevei mekabel eskola adam b'sever ponim yafes Shammai. So now he's in front of his Talmidim. The first thing every Rebbe has to know, you can't be a hypocrite. He's in front of his students. A guy comes and says, teach me all of Judaism. Out! That's sever ponim yafes. What's happening here? True, Shammai was midas hakvura. True. But even Gvura doesn't mean rude. Gvura means disciplined, principled, strict, boundaries. Doesn't mean rude. Gvura is not rude. Gvura is not cruel. Dachafay b'amasa binyan doesn't seem appropriate l'cha'ira at first glance. A starke kasha, no? Good question. So Shammai, one of the two Gedolei Hadar, student of Shmaya and Avtalia, and they were gated. And the Gemara says in Yuma that once the Kohen Gadol was walking out of the Beis Hamikdash on Yom Kippur, Mitzvah Yom Kippur, and the Jews were following him, and then they saw Shmaya and Naftalion, and they went to Shmaya and Naftalion. So the Kohen Gadol got upset. So he tells Shmaya and Naftalion, it's interesting that the Jews would choose Goyim over the descendants of Goyim over the descendants of Aaron HaKohen. He was very insulted. So Shmaya and Naftalion said they knew how to choose because somebody who's Oyev Shalom, Veroidev Shalom is a more descendant of Aaron HaKohen than a biological descendant of Aaron HaKohen. Shammai was his student, Shmaya and Naftalion's student, and now this is what he does to a Gentile. So I'm going to tell you a pshat. We were zoiche to hear this Yahrtzeit from the Rebbe, the night of Erev Shavuos, Tovshin Mem Hei, 1985. I should just tell you. The Rebbe said it in passing, probably 15 seconds, maybe 10 seconds. But he said a vort, and the way I grasped it, I'm going to present it with a little development, but that's how I understood. The Rebbe said it mamash in 10 seconds. What Shammai did, we misunderstand. Shammai was not throwing away the person. The Gemara says, "Dochafoi ba'amas habinyan." He threw him away with a stick with which he builds. Why is that relevant to the story? What do I care what he used to throw him away? If he used a bottle of seltzer, if he used his fist and said, "Gate for Danen," if he used a stick, if he used an esrig, or if he used this cane. Shammai Bepashtus was going with a cane. No, he was a charebe. What's the difference what he used? Who cares? Why does the Gemara say it? Because with this, the Gemara is trying to say what Shammai was doing. And the explanation is as follows. Shammai was not throwing out a person, not rejecting him. Shammai was teaching him the first foundation he has to know about Yiddishkeit. Yiddishkeit is based on two Yesodos. The first of the Aseres HaDibros is Anoichi Hashem Elokecha. The second one, Lo Yiyeh Lecha Elokim Acherim Al Panai. Anoichi Hashem Elokecha is the foundation of mitzvahs Aseh. Lo Yiyeh Lecha Elokim Acherim is the foundation of mitzvahs Lo Yisaseh. There are things a Jew does because I am Hashem. There's things a Jew doesn't do because Lo Yiyeh Lecha Elokim Acherim. This is not Avodas Hashem. There is the yes of Yiddishkeit, and there is the no of Yiddishkeit. Some people like the yes, but they don't like the no. They like the yes. They like the beauty of mitzvahs, of traditions, of customs, of rituals, but they don't like the no's of Judaism, the boundaries, the lo yisasa. Which Jew doesn't like the idea of eating gefilte fish and sitting together on Shabbos and singing songs? Everybody agrees that it's beautiful. Who can disagree with sitting together and eating matzah and acher and shal pesach kneidlach and gebrakas? You can't disagree with it. And who can disagree with the beauty of tzedakah and with the beauty of family life and with the beauty of education? You can't disagree with things. But when it comes to the mitzvahs lo yisasa, when it comes to the no's of Judaism, this is often more difficult. When it comes to that which a Jew doesn't do, lo yiyeh lecha elokim acherim, mitzvahs lo yisasa, this is a whole different story. And sometimes we want to take the yes and we want to get rid of the no. But in life it doesn't work that way. Every yes must include a no. Yes without no, you don't stay with the yes either. Take the best example. Yiddishkeit is about a marriage. Imagine a husband comes over to his wife and says, you know, I'm mamish loyal to you. Everything, we're connected, we're loyal. But you know what? I'm also loyal to another 1,000 women just like you. I want the yes, but I don't want the no. You, yeah, but everybody else too. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. If there's no discipline, if there's no boundaries, you're not going to be able to cultivate the positive energy. A person is going to say, I'm going to go to gym 4 times a week, like the Minigan Borough Park, but I'm also going to eat at the Viennese table of every bar mitzvah. I want the cake and I want to eat it too. There's no yes without no. If you're not ready to create boundaries, if you're not ready to create gvulim, if you're not ready to create tchumen, at kam tchum Shabbos, here I don't go out. If you're not ready for the le'ilecha, there's no anoichi. Zachar v'shamar b'dibur echad nemru. And there was a particular movement of Jews who in the 1950s decided to get rid of the shamar They're going to start driving to Shul on Shabbos, and their children got rid of the Zohar too. Because if you get rid of the Shomer, you can't hold on to the Zohar. The power of Yiddishkeit is not only mitzvah sese, it's mitzvah leisas. The ger, the non-Jew, comes to Shammai. He says, teach me the whole Torah while I'm on one foot. Shammai says, I'm going to give you the first lesson. The first lesson is Dochafoi ba'amas habinyin. If you want to be a Jew, you're going to have to be able to know how to reject things, how to push away things, how to say no. This is asur. This is not for a Jewish child. This is not for a Yiddish neshama. If you want a masa binyan, if you want it should be a building, if you want it should be a binyan that's going to last, you're going to have to be able to do dochafai. If you want to build a house of cards, if you want to build a religion based on fantasy, then you don't need dochafai. Then everything is yes, 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 yes. Everything goes. Everything goes. God goes and everything else goes. But that's not going to last. It's not going to be a binyan because it's not real. It's like a marriage. I love you and I love the whole world and everything is one big cholent. It's not going to work. There's no binyan. So Shammai taught him the first yesod. You're going to have to be able to do something you didn't know about. And that is the ability to reject. Once Shammai taught him that yesod, now Hillel can teach him the second yesod. The second yesod was all of Judaism is about love. V'yahavta l'recha kamoicha, like we learned in yesterday's parsha. Shammai was midas agvura. He taught him the first yesod, lo, and he made him ready for Hillel's yesod, which is anochi Hashem Elokecha. One of the great qualities of the Baal Yahrtzeit was that he had this ability of dochafoi ba'amas habinyan. He had clear red lines that he never crossed. He was driven by a very deep, not only Avos Hashem, but also Yiras Hashem. We live today in a world where love became a very popular term, but awe, fear is not a very popular term. We love love. We don't love Yira anymore. It's not popular anymore. But Shammai was right. If there's no Yira, there's no Ava. Tosfos says Harayat Mekudeshes means two things, right? What does Tosfos say? One thing Tosfos says Mekudeshes. Why? What does it mean Harayat Mekudeshes? Mekudeshes means holy. Your wife becomes holy because she married you. She probably becomes unholy. No, just joking. What's pshat? She becomes holy because she marries you. What's pshat? A woman once said, before I was married, I was incomplete. Now I'm married, I'm finished. What's pshat? Harayat Mekudeshes. So Tosfos says two pshatim. Kiddushin of Beis Amid Beis. One pshat is mekudeshes, miyuchedes. Hekdesh means designated. Mukdash, like you say, it's designated. This building, like in Borough Park, you ever see a building is mukdash? They dedicate buildings in Borough Park. You know, they dedicate. Okay, mukdash, dedicated. Mekudeshes, you're designated to me. That's positive. But then Tosfos says another explanation. Asra akula alma kehekdesh. Hekdesh is asra akula alma. The two things work together. If it's not asra akula alma, if you belong to the whole world and to Hashem, you can't have both. V'azak b'chayvus halavavis. Keshem shlo yishkenu amayim v'yayish. B'kli echad kach lo yishkoin avos Hashem v'yavos olam hazeh b'lev amayim. I can't belong to the whole world and belong to Hashem. Who do I belong to? So if you don't have Yireh, the Ava doesn't last. The first thing Shammai did was Dochvei ba'amas habinyan. The Baal Yahrtzeit embodied that. He had a lot of Avos Hashem. He had a lot of Avos HaTorah. But he also had Yiras Hashem. And he had very clear boundaries of Yiras Shamayim that were not passable, and they were ingrained. They weren't loud. They weren't spoken out in hollering and screaming necessarily, but they were very deep, they were very subtle, they were very powerful. That combination of essay and loisas. And here is where I come back, that these two qualities are often paradoxical. People who are very into creativity and maximizing their potentials are often more inclined towards Ava than to Yira. Because Yira is bittul, and Ava is mitzias, Ava is expression, and Yira is kivutz. And that's why the two are not always, they don't always work together. And yet by the Baal Yahrtzeit we saw a tremendous emphasis on utilizing your abilities, which was the first nakuda, together with Dachafai Ba'mas Abinyan. I told the boys and the children at the Shiva that there are 2 matzevas that we put up for a nifter. One matzeva is made of stone. It's built in on the kaver. It remains there till Tchias HaMesim B'Korim B'Yameinu, and it doesn't change. You come and you see Poin Nitman, Reb Yahrtzeit, Reb Chananya, Zichron Levracha, and the whole nusach that describes in brief a few highlights of a person's life. That's one matzeva. You come and you read something about the person. There's another matzeva that when you look at that matzeva, you also see who the person was. But it's a very different matzeva. It's not etched in stone. It can change every day. It's very, very flexible. And when you look at it, you also see who the person was. And that matzeva are the children of the person who passed away. When you look at a child, you see one's father. And that's a choice every child can make. When I look at a child, I see who the father was. I see who the father is. Mazare afu. Mazare b'chayim, afu b'chayim. I see who the father is. I was sitting yesterday at a bar mitzvah, put in the Svardische shul. So I was sitting near the Vizhnitzer Rav of Tel Zion, of Korenreich, a Edom of the Senate Vizhnitzer Rebbe. So he says, Ich lach zugen a Wort. I say, Zugt. The name of the Baal HaNifter is Eliyahu. Eliyahu. Tziyah. About, what does it say about Eliyahu the first time? Pinchas, Zeh Eliyahu. Pinchas, the son of Elazar, the son of Aaron, Zeh Eliyahu. So all the Mefarshim say, who came first? Pinchas or Eliyahu? Pinchas. Generations, Eliyahu was asked in Malachim. Pinchas is in Chumash. So what should it say? Eliyahu Zeh Pinchas. Eliyahu is Pinchas, not Pinchas is Eliyahu. Right? Pinchas was first. Eliyahu came second. He is the neshama of Pinchas, not Pinchas Eliyahu. Not a bad question. This is a famous question. So he tells me his answer. He's going to tell me his answer, and it's very appropriate. I don't know if he knew I'll use it one day later, but I am. But it's actually very appropriate by Hashgacha at tonight's event. And that is, they say a Yid came to the Babav of the Kedusha Siyah, Hashem Yinkim Domai, the Ben Sion of Babav, whose name was also Ben Sion. A Yid came to Ben Sion of Babav, and he walks in. He says, Rebbe, weißt wer ich bin? He says, no. My Zayde was Ploini, Ben Ploini. He starts talking about his Zayde. And he thought, the Kedusha Siyah, the Kedusha says to him, I'll be honest with you. It's not so relevant to me to know who your grandfather was. For me to know who you are, who is your grandchild going to be? People say, my father, my Zayda, my Elta Zayda, my Elta Baba, it's all good. My question is, who's going to be your child? Who's going to be your grandchild? Pinchas, Zeh Eliyahu, not Eliyahu, Zeh Pinchas. You want to know who Pinchas was? Zeh Eliyahu. Take a look who came out of him. Everybody has Zaydas and Babas. There was a Yid once went into Lower East Side to buy, you know, they used to have a lot of kosher meats, kosher meat stores there. You remember the Lower East Side in the good old days? He walks in, he asks the Yid over there, the meat is kosher, you have some mashgiach? He says, look at the wall. You see this person on the wall? This is my father. A rabbi in Bialystok. Look at his beard. This is my father. So the guy shopping says, that's the problem. If your father was standing here by the counter and you were hanging at the wall, yeah, then I would buy the meat. The problem is your father with the long beard is hanging on the wall. And you're here, so I'm not sure about the meat. You want to know the Mila of Pinchas? Pinchas Eliyahu. It's not Eliyahu, it's Pinchas. Pinchas, he produced an Eliyahu. And in our case, as we celebrate the life of Rebbe Eliyahu, Tziyah Zechrona Levracha, the children who each and every one in their own rights, the sons and the daughters, God bless you, together with the Rebbetzin and the grandchildren, embody the quality that you could say, Eliyahu. You want to know who Eliyahu was? Go through one by one, and you could see the Avos Yisrael, the Avos HaTorah, the Avos Hashem, the concern they have for another Jew, the dedication they have to Yiddishkeit, the dedication they have to Chassidus, the dedication they have to their families, the dedication they have to the Rebbe. This is the greatest testimony and the greatest attribute that a Father in heaven could wish and crave, and I bless all of you that you should zusammen, you should remain together. You should remain together. You should remain united. The greatest power of a Jewish family is when they're united, and it's also the greatest challenge of a Jewish family. Now, you're lucky that your father didn't die a multi-millionaire. That you're lucky, because then he might have left you lots and lots of diamonds, but probably you wouldn't be in this room. There would be a Yahrtzeit in one place, and a Yahrtzeit across the street, and a Yahrtzeit another across the street, and another Yahrtzeit. There would be Yahrtzeits everywhere, even though it's one guy, but somehow there would be many Yahrtzeits. So the fact that you're all here together is really a great, great moment. And you had a great Shabbos together. You should remain united. Begashmius, and mainly remain united Beruchnius, because that's the greatest power of every family. And I want to wish Rabbi Sophia that you should live and enjoy many, many long, happy, and healthy years with tremendous abundance, prosperity, menuchas hanefesh, and tremendous nachas from your whole family. And all of you should be blessed with kol tuv ruchni v'gashmi, and only happy occasions in the family. And we should be zoiche b'karav mamish teikitzu v'ranenu sheichni yafa v'hu b'soicham. May it be taken from miyad mamish. Thank you, and l'chaim l'chaim
Rabbi Jacobson is, I'm not an eloquent speaker, but I can say a very few words that you didn't let us down. And the words that you said were very potent, and they should help that, as you said it, so should it be, that we should continue in what we have to do in our Avedis Hashem, and with full force, and we should sort of emulate what we did see by our Father. And again, Agresi Ashikeach, all that you've inspired him and inspired us through the way you inspired him, and if you should be mechazik you and your Aveda as well, then you should be you should go mechail u'cheil what you have to do. We're almost about to bench, but we have one more speaker. I don't know if we should go straight to this last speaker, or we should sing a niggun.
Do a niggun.
A niggun. Yosef, you want to start a niggun? A niggun, huh?
No, Daddy, he was there.
Yeah.
He came the last time he came to Daddy.
Say by the mic. Say
What wants the bench? Huh?
No, Daddy went into the hospital. They put him in the intubator on a Monday.
Yeah.
On a Monday day. On Wednesday, he was there the Wednesday before. He spoke for praying with Daddy in the hospital the Wednesday before. Right before he left the room, Daddy gave him a bracha. It should be for us the Yom HaKedva, Fein of the Negva should spread out.
So you want to sing for us though?
Yeah, like you give me a bracha. Don't go to Florida. Come on, go around.
You understand English, Matcha, yeah? You can read in English, yeah? There's the last speaker that we want to ask to say a few words has grad shaykhs to be on. Huh? So nothing mentioned. But we have to, but nothing mentioned is not going to work. So I know of a shidduch that was done between the Bukharish Shul and Biyan, and the Kefta opinion, they took opinion. So we're just going to ask the Rav from the Bukharish Shul, Rav Shem Chaim Yazov, to say very, very quickly, because the Matcha really, really wants the bench. So Mechamed Matcha, who's a dear, dear friend of the family. Reb Shemachai, if you could be Mekatzer, a paar kurze Wörter.
I'm gonna tell you 1 minute.
Oh, 1 minute.
Okay, just listen good. I ask him, L'chaim. 30 years ago, when you opened the shul, we want to buy the shul. 35 years ago already. But 30 years ago, I came with me with the Rabbi Yahrtzeit, as my father's cousins, and I said to him, "You want to be our president? We want to know how to put the name in shul, Raman Achai. You find out Raman Achai." I say, "Why I want to? You should know the Aleph Chet Yud, because 1920 go up Shlomo Levi Lazarov from Samarkand. In 1923, 3 brothers, one Romani, my grandfather, another is brother Yaakov Niazov, and his cousin Hanan Niazov, father of the Yaakov Niazov. 3 of them go to Petersburg, to Rabbi Rayat, about 6 months, Rabbi Rayat, to send out Shaliach in Samarkand. And he sent Shaliach, Rabbi Belsky,
Simcha Gdatsky.
Simcha Gradetsky. And I said that's why the 3 of them they go. I want you should figure out how to put his name. Aleph, Achai, Mani, Chet, Hanani, father of the Tzvi, and 3rd one, Yaakov, Achai. Yaakov is brother, my grandfather's brother. Baruch Hashem, I was working for Britain now. He was helping to me. He was president. He was very good. Like you say here, everybody. Dr. Olenu, Baruch Hashem, to his wife, to Sophia, to children, grandchildren. We should see Moshe Tzkin, and we will keep the lunch of the problem to come here. So, Amen.
Other father. Matche. Zeg, we gaan met zijn benchen of zo. Ah? Even een paar werten. Nog een benchen. Shir Malis. Huh? Shir Malis. Tolly. Uri, are you here? Where is he? Where you washed? Yeah, of course. Yeah. So you'll bet. The Matcha says that it goes to the Bechira.
Wine? Sugar. Is wine or no?
Yeah, wine. Where's the bottle of wine? Where's the
Have
bottle
any
of
hit?
wine? Oh, there's the wine. Here's the wine. Still on? Did after bench? I ate everything. Whatever. What's it?
where am I going to sit? Can I do it from where I sat? Where I watched?
Huh?
Can I do it from where I watched?
Take it right here and eat over here.
As long as you see the plate.
But igual, you don't go to the...
Where are you getting? What is that?
No, that's not. There's wine?
There's-
Is there wine?
You see me? See me?
No,
I don't need this recorded anymore, right?